and we went up to the north and presented these combined research to the rangatira up there, to a lot of the hapu up there. And because we were putting out an invitation to come together, to find common ground in Te Ao Māori. So we're in this process. It's alive for us. But in order to come together, we need to know that we're all on the same page. That's the point of finding common ground. That's the point of really knowing who the enemy is, because a whole lot of the rangatira that were there continued to engage with the government. And their iwis engaged. And we had to be very clear. You do that, you're allowing them. You've got to step back and know who you are. Government is an administration. Sovereignty is ownership. Sovereignty is a whole lot of things, but for our purposes, if you don't own anything, it's hard to be a sovereign. Right? I'm a sovereign. Have you got any land? No. Oh. All right. But so it's usually land or whenua. It could be knowledge, right? Or standards, or a whole lot of different things. Now, we were told that the government's powers derived from our status as a constitutional monarchy, right? Yes, it came from the treaty, Queen came over, and we're under the Queen and everything's good. She'll protect us. Queen Victoria, Queen Elizabeth, King Charles. I feel so safe. Okay, at the same time, we have judges and lawyers. Then they have a constitutional duty to uphold legislation passed by the government, however damaging that might be, against the rights of people, because they're bound under Parliament. So this is our constitution. This is part of our constitutional makeup. Geoffrey Palmer. Right, he put a book out, and in the back it has tricky words. What did you read? New Zealand Constitution. Why is it in the tricky word column? It's like looking for a snark. You'll never find it. This is Geoffrey Palmer. He knows. All right. Oh. So New Zealand failed to constitutionally validate their legal sovereignty, when they became independent from Britain early this century. The important fact to remember is New Zealand's founding statutes are British law. So Britain passed laws, they came over here, and they were adopted as laws here. But they started over there, and they were sort of continued over here. Then New Zealand was granted Dominion status in 1907 from England, by England, right? Synonymous with colony. Oh, I thought they became a colony in 1935, in 1840. Oh, I'm confused. Right. It wasn't until the 10th of January 1920, however, that New Zealand became a foundation member of the League of Nations, the forerunner of the UN. Membership of the League of Nations was restricted only to sovereign countries. The Article 20 of the Covenant of the League of Nations required the extinguishment of any colonial laws applying to a member state. Just comprehend that. Okay, so to become the League of Nations, this New Zealand institution thing had to get rid of any connection to England. Otherwise there couldn't be a nation. Now, I'm just going to talk about this little document. This is an 1840 document. It's called the Charter of New Zealand. It's actually the founding document of New Zealand, because Wakaputanga has nothing to do with New Zealand. Tiriti has nothing to do with New Zealand. Right? It's not our word. It's not our reo. So the first time New Zealand is mentioned is this document. It's a Privy Council writ. It's a royal letters patent. right? And it says here, and it says, Queen Victoria, by the grace of God, of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, Queen, defender of her faith, go to whom all. Right, and it goes down. This actually goes through how you establish a colony, how you establish an administration for British purposes, right? And it sets up the taxation, the laws, the assembly, accordingly be, and we do hereby declare that from henceforth the said islands shall be known and designated as the colony of New Zealand. Right? So that's it. It's actually on a beautiful bit of paper, all coloured, all handwritten, no full stops, after Te Tiriti. So Queen Victoria gets the treaty, it goes back to England, and then she says, oh, I've got a treaty, and then they say, okay, set up an administration, and this is her designation to that. Yeah. So the Queen knew what she got. She knows she didn't get sovereignty over the land or over the people, right? And there's several occasions through history where she was asking, hey, Māori, don't you think it would be good to get English laws? It was the 1850s. So what was missing? So I got 3 pages here. The one online, NZLII, has 2 pages. I was like, where's this page? So what does it say on this page? What has been whitewashed? Oh, okay, let's tell you. Public uses of the subjects, the residents of any... Now, any of them, provided always that nothing in there our letters patent contained shall affort or be construed to affect the rights of any Aboriginal natives of the said colony of New Zealand to the actual occupation or enjoyment in their own persons or in the persons of their descendants of any laws in the said colony now actually occupied or enjoyed by such natives. No law by a New Zealand corporation binds tangata whenua. No government, corporation, dead entity can create more power than its founding document. Best in time, first in law, best in time, best in law. Now you can see why the middle page was missing. All right, pre-sovereignty, so all of that. Constitution Acts in New Zealand passed prior to membership became legally void. You know, every couple of years the New Zealand government's got to go before the United Nations Indigenous Committee. And it's not the main forum in the UN, but it's a side forum. Right, so, you know, that's Indigenous. Who needs to go there, right? So New Zealand turns up, and Minister Little, and he gave a great speech of what he's doing for Māori and what Māori have participating. We've now got the highest participation in politics and members of parliament and all of these great data statistics. And then someone asks, so have you, Minister, have you got your constitution in order yet? Wow. And he, what do I say? What do I say? It's a work in progress. Now, why would arguably the most powerful man in the world ask that question? What is Putin even doing there? What does he know that we don't? Yes. There's a reason why New Zealand doesn't have one, right? Because remember, this is New Zealand's story, not the story of tangata whenua, right? Well, we've got countries that actually are wealthy, and their people don't need to pay for education, and their people don't need to pay for water. They don't need to pay for these sorts of things because the country is wealthy. We are wealthy. We are wealthy. It's just being stripped. We are wealthy. You know we're wealthy. You've seen it. But you know you're not getting access to it. You've got to go and sign something to get a percentage, and they take the bigger percentage. The wealth is here. That's why that whole system was set up.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? It wasn't a bad system. It's now been taken over. Well, this is it. You see, the reason they can't have a constitution because there's already one here. Here, Wakaputanga is the constitution of this land. Okay, it continues to be found in principle of the Union Charter that laws of one state cannot be used in another unless ratified by the mutual treaty. Okay. No Act of Parliament in the UK. This is from a FOI or IOA to the British. No Act of the Parliament of the UK or an Act that looks to the Parliament of the UK for its authority is valid in New Zealand or its territories in accordance with the laws of the UK and the Charter of the UN. So, you know, if we keep saying, oh no, England's got us, the UN's International Law Commission ruled that Australia could not rely on Section 61 of its constitution because the constitution was a British law. It's the same for New Zealand. Okay, under international law, once you get a change in sovereignty, then there's a break in legal continuity. So we go to Hong Kong. We all know Hong Kong was a British colony or state or administration. But on the 1st of July 1997, the lease ended. The landlords got it back. That probably should have happened in 1990, but we weren't prepared. We didn't go through this process as a people and as a nation. The tino rangatiratanga of all hapu throughout Aotearoa has never been extinguished. Full stop. So when we talk about New Zealand's constitution, it arose from Westminster 1852 to provide authority for the colonial administration to govern on Queen Victoria's behalf. New Zealand signed the League of Nations 1920, was given legal separation from Britain in 1931 with the Statute of Westminster. New Zealand chose not to ratify 1931 statute. I can't say that word. Deceiving? They wouldn't do that. The New Zealand public, that it could still function as a British colony. They've been operating like a British colony. You know it, you felt it. We welcomed Queen, Prince Harry, Prince William. Although the Longi government did pass in 1986 the Constitution Act. You can go online, look up the Constitution Act. It's an act. Not a people's constitution. The Constitution Act is void because the government had no sovereign power delegated to it by the New Zealand people or the whenua kaitiaki hapu. Yeah. So for here, when we talk about this, right, they went to get royal consent. Someone went over, hey, Queen Elizabeth, can you sign this? Yeah, nah. There's no royal assent from the Queen Victoria to allow New Zealand to create its own constitution. But you weren't told that. So I'm going to share with Gina now, and there's hope here, right? We've just broken it down. So we've got to rethink how we're going to come up with some solutions. We've got to rethink how we come together and unify.